Can you tell me who you are and the delegation?
My name is Shirley Roper, and I'm the English Language Officer from the State Department, traveling with the Young African Leaders Group. We have been to Washington, D.C., New Hampshire, Portland, Oregon, and now we're finishing up our program in Atlanta, Georgia. They'll be here this Saturday, and we've had some interesting meetings and exchanges with different leaders and different people on this trip. It was really a fascinating trip. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure they have too.
Now, can you give me a little bit about the purpose?
The purpose is to get to show the African leaders what it's like to be an American. I'm glad that we have the opportunity to meet with African Americans. A lot of times on these trips, they might not get the opportunity to really exchange and work with, meet African Americans. But on this trip, they made an effort, and we did have several of them that and plus I traveled with the group, so they got a chance to really meet many of them.
The delegation that you have, what parts of Africa are they from?
They're from the Congo, Rwanda, Ghana, Nigeria, Malawi, Botswana, and Swaziland. I lived in Malawi and Lesotho, Southern Africa, so I got a chance to experience African culture and life, and that's why I was selected to work with this delegation while they're here in the United States.
So they are on an economic, social, culture?
Yes, all of the above kind of situation, and different programs relating to different things. We have journalists on this group, we have people who are youth leaders, we have people who have trying to get out the vote in their countries. So it's all about getting them to the same kind of issues that we have in the United States, they have in their countries. But you can imagine it's different. So they are the young leaders in their organizations now. And in a few years I can imagine having future presidents come out of this group.
Anything you'd like to say?
I enjoyed it. I think it's a great experience for me as well as the group. And I hope that I get some more African groups.
Now, if somebody wanted to contact you, how would they do that?
Contact them?
Yes, you.
Me?
Yes.
I am I'm just a contractor for the State Department. Whenever they need anything, they contact me. But right now, I'm living in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
I record, audio. So I like to kill two birds with one stone.
Just in case one doesn't like, what I just say.
And here we are. We are with. That ain't gonna work. But here we are live in Atlanta, Georgia. I am Sharon J. Hill. This is your Public Eye Report, bringing you around the world with Joe Beasley, and we are live at the Joe Beasley Estate. How about that? With Adjoa and Al Hassan. Okay, from Ghana, Accra, Ghana. But in all actuality, you know what? We are having a good time, as you can hear. However, what y'all doing here? What's going on? What brings you to America, and particularly to Atlanta?
Okay. We are on an International Visitor Leadership Program, which we are being nominated by various embassies of the US and the various countries. And so that's basically what brings us here to the States.
Okay. We have leaders, emerging leaders. How about that? And particularly, what vocation are you in Ghana and pursuing?
I am the head of research for Allied News Limited, which is basically we do opinion polls on pre-elections, elections, and post-election survey. And our outfit is the best renowned. Seriously, it's the best renowned opinion polls company in the whole Ghana, and also a journalist as well.
She's here. She's collecting. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, I am.
She's collecting. She's
Well,
collecting.
Maybe I just have to take it from there.
No, you take it from there.
Just say
Okay.
that I'm a journalist too.
Okay.
I have a radio show in Ghana.
Awesome.
I host the morning show on Radio Gold. It's one of the most listened to. I also host a talk show program every weekend. We look at socio-political and economic issues on the program, and I think it's as a result of that the embassy, United States Embassy in Ghana, decided to consider me for this program, and that's why we're here. Been looking around the United States of America. We started from Washington D.C., where we met a number of people in government because we are just looking at governance, local, participation in governance, democracy, and all of that. So we started from Washington. Then we went to New Hampshire, Manchester, and then from there to Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
And then now we are here.
Okay, seriously crisscrossing.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like that.
Exactly. And so that means you had an awesome opportunity to experience our weather here. Okay, well, we thank you so very much. And look, they're not emerging, they are on top. Leaders, leaders.
We still find ourselves emerging. Thank you.
Well, no, thank you. And of course, always with Mr. Joe Beasley, being our sisters and brothers keepers, this is Sharon J. Hill. Okay. I have an internet radio. Okay, so while he's doing video, I'm going to record. Okay, and we're live here in Atlanta, Georgia. The Joe Beasley Foundation, we are going around the world with Joe Beasley. I'm Sharon J. Hill, and this is your Public Eye Report. And I'm here with Ely from Kenya. Okay, you are here because you are a leader of what?
Basically, leadership is defined in different aspects. But me, I count myself as a young generation leader who is able to solve local problems, create local solutions for our own problems, and try to nurture grassroots associations, movement, which is able to push the agenda of the people.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, we actually are familiar, Joe is a part of the People's Agenda, the Georgia Coalition for People's Agenda, convened by Dr. Joseph Maury, one of our civil rights icons. And of course, being about the People's Agenda is what we do, as you mentioned, and grassroots, all of those words, for the conscious community. So where are you working in, say, right now? With all that's happening, what is a major focus?
Our major focus is on sustainable peace and security as a means of ensuring realization of full democratic process in our country. Many people look at democracy in very narrow picture, and we look at sustainable peace. When we look at Kenya during the 2007-2008 election, we had post-election violence, and towards the 2013 election, we did experience violence because of the concerted efforts by a number of organizations. We can't count ourselves that we are the only people behind the success, but the problem facing our people, the people, requires concerted synergy. Different actors, different organizations, different individuals like myself and others.
Awesome. And you know what? There's a wave going on right now. Really, it's not just in America, it's across the globe where the people are standing up. What you're talking about, coming together and enforcing the people's agenda. Government of the people, as we have here, government of the people, by the people, for the people. We are coming together, groups that you do not usually you see together or have come together for a main focus, and one of them because of not having public input or the leaders, the representatives, the elected representatives, disregarding the people's voice. You've heard we've been dealing with Moral Mondays here, Citizens for Governmental Transparency. Where are you with that? Because I know you spoke about the violence, but right now,
Exactly.
with
During the post-election violence, provided an opportunity to overhaul the entire Kenya Constitution, which provided a framework for devolution process. The major causes of violence was inequality, unequal distribution of resources. Now in Kenya we have devolved government, where central government shares money equally to all parts of the country. And Kenya is very tribalistic. And now we have the devolution. We as champions of peace, some people call us the citizens ambassadors. We are trying to advocate for full citizens participation in the local governance. Because in the past we have the national governance, but now it has been devolved. If you're not the watchdog of the people, then these devolved governance will be the same as national government. And so we are creating a platform where the citizen engagement, the civic engagement, country legislation, prudent use of resources and accountability, and provide a platform for the people to speak for themselves and us amplifying through speaking up for them.
You're speaking about educating
Exactly.
as well, and that is a challenge actually for us. One of the things that we say is that, you know, people are busy living, and so much goes on. We have our percentages for our elections where, you know, they don't come out, but then we do know that they recognize the power that they have with their ballot voice. And so as they did in 2008 here and 2012, they came out and they made the change. But then now getting them back to actually being a part and engaging them in the fourth part of getting out the vote, and that is keeping the representatives accountable. As you said, being a champion of the citizen, and as we call it, our conscious community. Dr. Laurie calls us chaplains of the common good, but then we challenge conscious conversation. So engaging people and bringing those other emerging leaders. How is that included in the development?
Indeed, the government do not have such kind of frameworks. In most cases, I don't want to criticize them much,
Right.
but they have limitation on resources. But that is a deliberate attempt to suppress the citizens from speaking up. Number two, we are seeing a situation where the young generation are coming up.
Right.
We are seeing the Arab Spring. We are seeing the young people coming up to speak. Highly educated people are young people. Africa is coming younger day by day. China is going grayer, Europe is going grayer, America is a little bit younger because of immigrants. But Africa, Kenya in particular, is full of young people. And these young people must take direction, must take their vote. And we have two votes. The first vote is during the national election. The second vote is providing individual watchdog.
Awesome.
It's very difficult because the issues are so elaborate and very technical. They have to be unpacked. Hence, us as leaders who are educated, we are able to unpack these dogmas in governance to be able to give the citizens a simplified version to be able to put their leaders accountable. But if you give them the blanket autonomy of governance, it becomes very complicated. Even here in the United States, we see voter apathy below 30%,
Yes.
below standard.
Exactly.
So it's a global problem. We as champions, young generation, we are out to use our resources, to use our energy. We are not waiting external support. It's our own initiative.
Awesome, awesome. And so with that, I thank you so very much for taking the time to share what is going on and what we all need to do and how we are invoking change with engaging our citizens, especially our youth. So I would like to have you speak to them and give them a charge for being engaged. And this is for the global youth, from the elections to actually running for office, to being there and organizing as well for the people?
Indeed, the world is changing, and the role of citizens is very important in the entire governance process, and that starts with political parties' participation. In the past 30 years, the young people have not been participating proactively within the political party system. Hence, they are lagging behind within the national election process. Like in the United States, for instance, you must be proactively engaged either as a Democrat or a Republican party to participate in political primaries. Even in Kenya, we have different political parties. We urge the young people, wherever they are globally, they need to take a political right to proactively participate in the political parties' processes, to be able to participate in the political leadership during the election. That is not enough. Voting during the national election is not the end of the solution, not the end of our problem. That is the start of a long journey. Hence, we need to proactively participate in the leadership of governance after the election. How our resources are used, how our resources are managed, and how people are properly informed on what's going on in the national government. There has been a tendency of government globally to deny, to conceal information. Hence, the role of independent watchdog like civil society, individual citizens, ambassadors, and all of us youths, we need to come out and use non-violence strategies to agitate for our issues. Non-violence, and I reaffirm that word, non-violence strategies to advocate for our issues.
Awesome. We thank LA. This is Sharon J. Hill, your Public Eye Report. We're connecting globally. Images and issues, information and education. We are our sisters and brothers keepers, and LA is definitely
I'm part of it.
all right now.
French owned company based in Congo, which name is Perenco. And I worked with Perenco for 4 years as the head of internal audit. And I left Perenco 2 months ago to launch my own consultancy, which is specialized in finance. I help medium-sized Congolese companies to improve their governance, their management, and especially the financial functions. And alongside with my professional career, I am the founder of Congo Generation, which is a new think tank in DRC focusing on the ways of making the Congo an emerging country as Brazil, China, Turkey, and we are taking these countries as an example to move ahead.
Well, my name is Shehu Jiga. I'm from Nigeria, the northern part of Nigeria. Shehu Jiga. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Shehu Jiga. I'm from the northern part of Nigeria, and I'm a lawyer, and I also hold a degree in political science. In any case, I've never worked for government. I've never worked for government. I've been a lawyer and a politician. In fact, I joined politics actively in 2003 when I contested election into the State House Assembly. But my mandate, as usual, was stolen, and it is always usual in Africa generally. Then in 2007, I went for the member of the House of Representatives, and unfortunately, moved either way. And in 2011 again, I also tried my luck and contested for, went for a member of the Federal House of Representatives. I mean, our case is still in court now. In 2012, there was an exodus or massive defection of some of our big shots from the opposition party defecting to the ruling party. So we went to court. After the court has nullified the election, ordered for a fresh conduct of the election. And as such, at that time, almost all the heavyweight in our party has left. So I stood in and also contested as the gubernatorial candidate of our party in the state.
Okay.
So that is what it has been up to 2012 2013 when the three major political parties decided to come together to form a merger in order to have a strong opposition that can probably match the ruling party. So at that time I was appointed the Secretary General of the Interim Management Committee of the All Progressive Congress in Kebbi State. And that is the position I hold till today. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Frank Mugisha. I come from Rwanda, but I was born in Uganda. Rwanda has a very complex history. Most of the people who don't live in Rwanda, they know just part of Rwandan history. They hear about the genocide only, but they don't have that background regarding the genocide. So actually the ethnic conflicts in Rwanda started way back in 1959. So in 1959, most of the Tutsis were expelled from the country. We have three ethnic groups in Rwanda. There is the Tutsis, there is the Hutus, and the Twa. So the Hutus are the majority. And the Tutsis, they come second, and then the Twa. But before, independence, we were governed by, it was a monarch, like in other countries. The Tutsis were the rulers by that time. But the Tutsis did not collaborate with the colonialists, as the colonialists wanted it to be. Because they were the rulers by that time, and they wanted their territory to remain autonomous, so they did not pledge allegiance to the colonialists that came. So the colonialists, decided to side with the Hutus, which were the majority at the time, and supported the Hutus actually to overthrow the monarchy, because for them they were, getting along with the colonialists by that time. So in 1959 there was a revolution, what they called the revolution, and most of the Tutsis were expelled from the country, including the king, because our king by that time actually lives here in America, lives in Washington DC. He's still in exile. He was expelled in 1959, up to now he has never come back. So most of the Tutsis went into exile, including my family. They went to Burundi, they fled to Burundi, then from Burundi they went to Tanzania, and then to Uganda. That's where they settled. And as we were discussing, actually the family of the current president, Kagame, it was the same story. So they also fled to Burundi, and then they ended up in Uganda. So we had a big community of Rwandans living in the neighboring countries, in Uganda, in Burundi, Tanzania, and DRC. So these Rwandans continue to demand their right to come back to their country, but the ruling, party and the people in government, the Hutus, could not allow them to come. They even reached a time where they were no longer being considered to be Rwandans. Were considered to be like foreigners. So we had lost our total right of being citizens of our countries. But we also had relatives in Rwanda. So when in 1959, when the Tutsi were expelled, part of their family members actually remained in Rwanda, and another part went into exile. In 1962, there was also another, ethnic conflict. Also, the Tutsis were expelled. Also in 1973, there was also, so there was always ethnic tensions, and the Tutsis actually suffered because they were the majority. So I mean minority, yes. So in 1990, the Tutsis that were in exile, they decided to come together to demand their rights, this time by force, because they had been, demanding, requesting for that peaceful, and it had failed. So they formed a movement which is called RPF, Rwanda Patriotic Front. So they started negotiations with the government, in Rwanda at the time, requesting, the right to repatriate and come back to their country. But the government refused. So they formed an armed wing of that, political movement, which is the RPA, Rwanda Patriotic Army. And so they had to fight. They had to fight. There was, a revolutionary, movement and war. Started in 1990 up to 1994. But in 1994, because the current government at the time, the Hutu government, saw that they were losing the battle, so they decided actually to revenge on the Tutsis that had remained in the country, that had stayed in the country. So it was as a mechanism of retaliation against those that were. They said, if you are not stopping the war, then we won't find any of your sisters or brothers in the country. So that's how actually the genocide came along. So they eliminated, the decision was to eliminate each and every Tutsi that had, stayed in the country. So in 1994 there was that genocide, but actually the genocide had its roots way back in 1959. So there was all that ethnic tension. So my grandparents fled to Uganda. My father was that time was just 6 years in 1959. So myself, I was born in Uganda. I went back in Rwanda in 1994 after the genocide had been stopped and the war ended in October 1994. By that time I was still in primary school. I had completed primary 6. So I started my high school in Rwanda. I went to college, to university in Rwanda. I'm a lawyer by training. But also during that, school period, I've been very much involved in leadership and politics. I was a leader of the students at the high school. Also, during college, I was a student's leader. After finishing my studies, I worked for the Forum of Political Parties. In our country, we have 11 political parties, but they all work under one umbrella. And this umbrella is actually a platform for them to discuss national issues, but also to avoid, political parties. Because, actually the genocide, was based on that, hatred politics. So this is a platform for them to share, on national policies, but also to sort of put there some safeguards. Yes, 11 political parties. So I was a legal advisor of that Forum of Political Parties. And then from that organization, then I worked for an American-based organization called the National Democratic Institute, NDI. They had an office in Rwanda, which was strengthening. They had a project which was working on strengthening the capacities of political parties, because even though I said we have 11 political parties, but the political parties that are really seen, they are very few. There are 3 only. Others, they are just, briefcase political parties, so they are not active. So the project was about strengthening the capacities of political parties. I worked there as their program officer. Then in 2011, I went for another organization called the Legal Aid Fund, where I work now as a program manager. It's we provide legal aid, especially to the poor and vulnerable people, those who are unable to hire lawyers. So we provide them with lawyers free of charge. We do advocacy on justice issues. We also train our members, because this is an umbrella. We train our members, especially paralegals. And even here, you have paralegals. Yes, in Rwanda we have paralegals. So we train these paralegals also to assist their community members with regard to justice issues. So yeah, that's where I'm working right now, but I'm also a youth political activist.
One of my mentors, I love this man, and he is exposing me, I see, to his global activism, and I appreciate that. But I am the founder of Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network. The Southeastern Regional Headquarters is located here in the city of Atlanta. I was responsible for bringing that here. Since then, due to creative differences, I have in the process of basically starting my own organization. But in doing so, I work with the likes of the Honorable Joe Beasley, Reverend Dr. Joseph Lowry, Reverend C.T. Vivian. I feel like with my experience, which I want to make sure is understood, I did not, here in the States, normally when you are involved in social justice, you are either an attorney, clergy, or a politician. I didn't come up that way at all. I came up, I guess you would have to say, and this is not a negative position, but I came up through ways of the streets, so to speak. Local businessmen that help their communities. We won't get too much into that, but it wasn't until that I was dealt in hand of injustice by the federal government here, which made me lose 3 years of my life, 13 months of that in solitary confinement, and that's what started my advocacy. Well, way before then. Here in the States, if you are a outspoken, confident black male, you have your share of run-ins with law enforcement. It's just the way of the land here. So I think that started my advocacy. But after experiencing injustice firsthand, I wanted to make sure it never happened to me again. Number one, I wanted to make sure that it never happened to anyone else. And it's a long story in that sense, but that's what led me to Reverend Sharpton. And since then, have worked on a number of projects that have gotten national status, Trayvon Martin issues, Katherine Johnston issues, Jordan Davis issues, Gina Six issues. I know some of these issues you might not be aware of, but these are social justice issues which demanded for mobilization across the nation to converge on whatever city, state the issue was taking place, and was able to play a key part in that. So my mobilization skills were recognized. Of course, I worked with several attorneys, people in media, clergy, but I will say this, Dr. Beasley, listening to you brothers, I will be 40 this year. I think some of us are right around the same age, maybe. My mother was married a while back to a brother from Nigeria. But even prior to that, I've always noticed a disconnect with the brothers here in the States and the brothers from across the water. Not even a disconnect, a dislike. To be straight up. I mean, I'm a straight shooter, and that's what I think Dr. Beasley likes about me, and that's what I pride myself in. So I'm here to soak in knowledge, but as a brother that is raised in the States, that knows, that has knowledge of my history, and for the life of me, I don't understand the disdain, the dislike, the disconnect. Not understanding it is an understatement. I do understand it. I think it comes from brothers here in the States being negative when it comes from brothers like yourself across the water, and vice versa. It is a dislike that I think the opposition feeds on. I think the opposition thrives on. And I am just here to see how we can better the relationship of our true brotherhood across the water. So I look forward to seeing the interaction and the ongoing conversation. I'll end with this. I'm such a straight shooter that sometimes it gets me in trouble, right? Because I call out injustice no matter if it's against the opposition or if it's against my person sitting, shoulder to shoulder with me. Because a lot of times, organizations, your historical organizations that you might have heard of here, are your historical churches. They claim to be one way, but sometimes they're truly not. There are always good people within these organizations, but I am just here to stomp out any kind of negativity, no matter where the chips fall. So just wanted you to know that about me, and look very forward to just seeing what kind of connections that come out of this day here. Even though we're sitting here in this lovely loft, and Atlanta has a history of black mayor after black mayor after black mayor, but you can travel in about 20 minutes in a car in any direction, and you're in the good old state of Georgia, which is not a Confederate, gun-toting, racist state. It has a negative history. Well, a tumbling mat, a wrestling mat in the gymnasium was rolled up for storage, rolled up and positioned upright. The initial investigation, the brother's name is Kendrick Johnson. The initial investigation that was done by the local sheriff's department, rewind, January 10th of last year, Kendrick Johnson goes to school.
I'm going with him.
I know we haven't got really some things I think that we can do together. Okay. I was just in Ghana for President Mill's funeral, and I talked to, you probably know some of the people I know, I'll pull names up. But I wanted to talk to President Muhammad because the largest gold mine in the world is just outside, not too far from Accra, the largest gold mine in the world. And what I wanted to say to them, we see the unrest in South Africa around the platinum workers. And we were saying, we don't care what the protocols are in Washington. We say, Mr. Muhammad, if the platinum miners are mad, we get rid of the gold miners. You get the miners in, and then get that white man that say you own the mine, and have me to come in. They don't give up nothing about the protocols. Because the fact of the matter is, the World Bank and the National Monetary Fund, I call them the Siamese twins of white supremacy. That's what we're battling. They're Siamese twins. A lot more people have to talk. This young man just came in. He's from Gabon. And yeah, a lot of African friends.
Yes, if I can say a word, I listened to this brother here talk earlier. And one thing I was really disturbed about what you said. Not one time did you indicate the French's role in what happened in your country.
So much.
It was all about the Tutsis and the Hutus, and you didn't say one critical word about the French.
No, maybe he didn't have time because on our rights in the bus, he has given us.
No, he went back to 1959 though.
Yeah,
Let's speak. You actually went back to 1959.
yes, maybe I just briefly talked about it because of the time. I said the colonialists, supported the Hutus. The colonials here, I meant the French and the Belgians, because they were the people that colonized us. And as you may know, actually Rwanda has a bitter relationship with France, right now. If maybe you followed recently, we were on 7th April, we were commemorating our 20th anniversary of the genocide against the Tutsi. And so different, countries sent in delegations. The US had a delegation there headed by Samantha Power. Samantha Power, the US representative to the UN. The UK Foreign Secretary was there, John Hague. Ban Ki-moon was there. The Secretary General of the African Union, Dlamini Zuma, was there. But the French refused to send a delegation there because just a few days before the commemoration, President Kagame had an interview with a French newspaper called Jeune Afrique. And he actually stressed the French role in the Rwandan genocide because the French played, generally the international community failed Rwanda because they did not intervene to stop the genocide. But actually, the role of France is different from other, countries because France did not only intervene to stop the genocide, but actually they actively, facilitated the perpetrators of the genocide.
Right.
So they trained the militias, those who carried out the genocide, they gave them the guns, and at the end of the genocide, when the genocidal government was losing the battle, then the French went through the UN Security Council, they wrote, and they requested to send a special mission, forces there, which they called turquoise. They wanted to form a buffer zone, in Rwanda, which they were saying that, it is going to help people to act as a refugee for those who are being hunted, those who are, running for their lives. But what they did actually, they formed this buffer zone for the genocidal government to fled into the Congo because they saw that the genocidal government is losing the battle and they wanted to have this, buffer zone for them where they can, peacefully, exit. So that's how, this, zone turquoise happened. So they really active, not only, remained silent as the other international, but for them they actually actively participated. So, yeah, that's, we have this bitter relationship with the French. They don't want to accept, their role, at least the Belgians, for them they apologized. Bill Clinton, the former president, also apologized when he visited Rwanda back in 1998. But the French have, refused. They have totally refused. They don't want to accept their role. So, and Rwanda, we are not ready to back off. I think, as my colleagues, saying, sometimes bad things come with, something good. After the genocide, Rwandans have been very, committed to build their country. They have been very strong, and we are ready to stand for our values. Currently, I think Rwanda, on the whole continent of Africa, is one of the disturbing countries in the face of these, superpowers. Because Rwanda is not afraid to say what they think. Because I think we've reached the climax of the bad things that can happen to the, to humanity. So we are not fearing anything. So Rwanda is always there to say the truth. So there are always, this bad relationship between the French, because Rwanda is always, talking about this, responsibility, and France does not want us to. If you may remember, back in 2000 and I think it's like 3 years or 4 years back, actually Rwanda cut relations with the French government, because by that time there was a lot of information coming from France, and they were denying the genocide. And actually, there were some even indictments that was released by the French judge called Bruguière against the Rwandan leadership, including even the president. So Rwanda said this is enough. These people participated in organizing and executing the genocide. Now they're even destabilizing the country. So there was that cut of the relationship. Most of the African countries, thought Rwanda is going to suffer because we are cutting relationship with a superpower, but we never suffered. We continued and we persisted. We became more resilient. So, yeah, the relationship is bitter, but we are moving on. Rwanda is incredibly, evolving.
He identified this problem, and it was as a result of the pressure that civil society brought on the government to to take a second look at some of the existing mining contracts, because we thought that it was not benefiting the people as much as it should, because you have a situation where about 90% of the proceeds that we get from gold, it just goes out as capital flights. Nothing stays in the country. You have 5% being taxes, and you have 5% being royalties. And the royalties too are not well accounted for. So they started, he decided to set up a committee to engage the mining companies, because this is a matter of legalities. They have already signed these contracts. Some of those contracts have been passed by the existing parliament. So it becomes very difficult if you go antagonistic because of the international arbitration clauses that they always put in it. So they had to negotiate to get a playing field that will be mutually beneficial. But just when the committee was finishing its work, he died. But the committee didn't stop, and the current president, Mahama, also gave the committee all the support that it needed. Unfortunately, just when they were winning the battle against the mining companies, the prices of gold started going down. And so what did they do? The company started threatening to lay off workers. And you're talking about Ghanaian workers and families. So now they are using that as blackmail. And the government has asked the committee to slow down, because if the committee should come out with a report now, it is going to be very difficult for the government to be hard on the companies, because when they try to press on, they say the only way we can keep operating is to lay off the workers so that we can pay some of these things that you are asking of us to now pay. And the citizens, the media, and they have a chamber of mines, and they are all over the place making noise and saying that government is making life unbearable for these mining companies when gold prices are tumbling and their production cost is rising. Government is taking more from them, and it will result in more unemployment, and it has become a political issue. So sometimes it's also about how these corporations use our own people against our government. And maybe we need to find a way to educate ourselves better and see how we can together rise above that. Maybe it will require some sacrifices in support of our governments, but I don't know how we will do that. But I think that is the key, because they will always find a way to use the citizens to blackmail the government to get whatever they want.
To support you, you mentioned about the new level of neocolonization, using the Britain institutions like IMF, World Bank. If you're not careful, as you rightly put it, the West is trying to use multinational organizations, corporations. I repeat 100 times.
That's the neo-colonialism.
That is the new which we have, and we had to fight it. During the struggle for colonial independence, African independence, the colonialists used some of the native members of the countries in their support. They used the local police to suppress the citizens. Now they no longer use that kind of strategies because it is obsolete. Now they are using international regional institutions. Look, for instance, a case study is global. The public very terrible. The structural. At the end of the day, Africa lost a lot of money, a lot of investment. But that was a strategy. As we speak right now, and it being the African government didn't implement the structural adjustment program, my friends, we could be competing with China. And that was a carefully crafted strategy to stall African growth. Number two, the role of multinational corporation. This is very difficult. This is very difficult.
But share with them what you did in Cameroon about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. The case.
I'll make it brief because other people want to talk. But long story short, the largest deposit of cobalt and nickel in the world was discovered in Cameroon probably 10 years ago. Enough for 200 years of mining. The way they structured the deal, because the United States has this trade, what do they call it? In
USAID.
No, not USAID, but it's a trade.
World Trade Organization?
No. It's one that does money to do feasibility studies.
USAID.
No.
Yeah, that's it. USAID.
MCC? Is it MCC?
USAID. International Movement. That's it. I work on the thing.
No. I can't think of the name of it.
USAID.
It's not USAID.
I worked on a case with you. It's called International Development.
What name are you thinking?
International Finance? IFC?
No, USAID.
Anyway, our government, our taxpayers' money paid for the feasibility study. And they found it was a genuine deposit. And the crooks out of, the white crooks out of Colorado, they claimed, 69.5% ownership. And so the president, the ambassador to the United States, the ambassador from the United States to Cameroon was putting pressure on the president to try to make the deal consummated. But rather than them going to Yaoundé, I think it's the capital of Cameroon, they came here to D.C. and I met them in D.C. and we went. Long story short, the second time I went to D.C., the government had sent someone with them on a second mission. And I was trying to get them to recut the percentages. Meantime, I called the ambassador and told him to get the hell out of Cameroon business. We'll recall it. Wow. And he was a real silly man because he was a busher puncher, but he's afraid of me. So we're going to have to recall him. But it's those kind of deals, and at the same time we were dealing with the cobalt and nickel. The Australians said they discovered iron ore in Cameroon, and they took 90% ownership. So I think African Americans have to get involved in working with the others, certainly the multinational corporations. I'm looking for what we're doing. Well, let me be quiet. Somebody else say
I don't quite understand.
We say the best form of patriotism is telling your country when it's going the wrong way. And we've been going the wrong way a long time. So that's why, I'm black first. I've been black 77 years. So that's my that's first. But I know there's struggle all over the world, and but there's right and there's wrong. And just because you got might and power doesn't mean that you're right. And so I know it's getting late. I know you all got another busy day tomorrow, don't you?
Yeah.
Schedule tomorrow. But I'm just really. I hope we'll stay in touch. I hope we'll stay in touch. And I hope we'll stay in touch. Definitely. And Marcus is an activist. Maybe your call is in Africa. And Rwanda. He had me working on a project. That is, any African American come out of prison, done got his, you know, he's black first, and that now he's a criminal. And so you might live in that world, plug nickel. So he says, we'll take him to Rwanda. So we've got to work on a number of these kind of projects, not only Rwanda, but other countries, I think, as we thought would be, you know. If you're black and you're a criminal, you're a black criminal. You know? And I'm telling you, I was sitting outside my window, and I see these little black boys. They don't know me from a man in the moon. All they know is I'm an old man. Get out of my way. But you know, they got the pants all the way off the behind, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason why they're doing it is, what they're saying. They're saying to people like me that have not done enough to help them, protect them. They're saying to white people, you kiss me where the sun don't shine.